out in the deepest darkness ever reached by any human machine, something impossible may have just happened again. Voyager 1, humanity's most distant messenger, was never designed to explore mysteries like this. It was built to travel, to transmit, and to keep pushing forward into silence. But now that silence may be gone, because hidden inside one of Voyager 1's most recent images, quantum AI appears to have detected something deeply unsettling. Not a normal glitch, not random interference, not the kind of visual noise you would expect from a spacecraft launched in the 1970s and now drifting billions of miles from Earth. What the system found looks structured, deliberate, and strangely connected to the very region where Voyager 1 seems to have made its latest impossible encounter. And if that interpretation is right, then this is no longer just a story about an old probe malfunctioning in deep space. This may be the moment we realize that Voyager 1 did not simply pass through empty interstellar darkness. It may have crossed something, triggered something, or been noticed by something that should not exist at all. At first, the image looked insignificant. Just another faint, aging frame from a spacecraft so far away that even the act of receiving its data feels like a miracle. Voyager 1 has been traveling through interstellar space for years, sending back signals so weak they're almost ghost-like by the time they reach Earth. No one expected one old image to contain anything extraordinary. But when quantum AI reprocessed the deeper layers of the frame, something began to emerge. A faint geometric structure, a pattern so subtle human analysts missed it, yet so consistent that once enhanced, it could no longer be ignored. What made it alarming was not just its shape, but its behavior. The structure did not appear like random distortion or sensor decay. It seemed ordered, almost lattice-like, and even more disturbingly, it appeared fixed relative to Voyager itself. That is where the mystery turned dark. Because if the pattern remains aligned with the spacecraft instead of the surrounding starfield, then the obvious question becomes terrifyingly simple. Is Voyager carrying the anomaly with it? Or is something out there staying with Voyager as it moves through deep space? That image becomes far more disturbing once you connect it to Voyager 1's latest impossible behavior. Not long after the strange signal disruptions and emergency system responses began, the spacecraft did something no one expected. It appeared to shift orientation toward a region of space that should have contained nothing at all. No visible star, no obvious target, no reason to turn. And yet the probe behaved less like a broken machine and more like something responding to an external event. That is what makes the quantum AI findings so powerful, because suddenly the image is no longer isolated. The faint structure, the telemetry irregularities, the torque event, the unexplained antenna alignment, and a strange change in Voyager's behavior begin to look like pieces of one larger moment. Like a needle reacting to a magnetic field you cannot see. Voyager may have responded to a presence or structure hidden in the very region it encountered. The spacecraft was not supposed to steer into mystery, but that is exactly what it seems to have done. This is where the story becomes genuinely unsettling. When the pattern was studied over time, it did not behave like dead geometry. It appeared to shift in relation to Voyager's own activity, almost as if its structure subtly changed when the spacecraft's instruments were actively scanning. That alone would be enough to rattle any scientist, because now we're no longer talking about a passive anomaly. We're talking about something that may have been responding to observation itself. And if that sounds impossible, that is because it is supposed to be. Observer-like effects belong to the quantum world, to particles and subatomic weirdness, not to large-scale structures surrounding a spacecraft in interstellar space. Yet the deeper the pattern was analyzed, the less it resembled random noise, and the more it looked like meaningful order, prime number-like spacing, Fibonacci-style relationships, geometry with informational character rather than chaos. It is the kind of thing that makes you stop calling it a malfunction and start asking whether Voyager's image captured the shadow of something intelligent, or at the very least something far stranger than ordinary physics allows. One of the darkest details in all of this is the timing. The pattern appears connected to the period after Voyager crossed the heliopause, the boundary where the sun's protective influence gives way to true interstellar space. That matters because it suggests this was not just some drifting anomaly encountered at random, but something linked to the threshold itself. As if Voyager did not merely enter empty space when it left the solar bubble, but crossed into a region where the rules start changing. That would explain why the encounter feels so impossible, why the probe reacted, why the signals changed, why the image contained something no one expected to find, and why the whole event feels less like an accident and more like a boundary crossing with consequences. What makes this encounter feel even more disturbing is that Voyager 1's signal behavior did not just become noisy. It became strangely precise in the middle of the chaos. There were moments when the disruptions did not look like the usual decay of an aging spacecraft fighting the cold emptiness of deep space. They looked patterned, almost rhythmic, as if interference was being imposed on the transmission rather than produced by random failure. That alone changes the emotional weight of the event because random damage is one thing, but order hidden inside disruption is something else entirely. And that is where quantum AI becomes so important. A human engineer can detect anomalies, but an advanced system can compare spacing, repetition, timing, and deviation all at once. Once those changes were examined together, the signal no longer looked like a spacecraft simply falling apart. It looked like a system caught in interaction, almost as if Voyager's transmission was being touched, bent, or echoed by something external, like a voice trying to travel through a canyon and realizing the echo coming back does not sound quite like its own. Voyager may have been sending information into a region of space that was no longer passive. That is the idea that turns this story from mysterious to truly alarming. Because if the pattern in the image, the changes in transmission, and the impossible shift in Voyager's behavior are all connected, then the most uncomfortable explanation is also the one that ties everything together. Voyager may first not have been alone during that encounter. Not alone does not necessarily mean a spacecraft in the way science fiction usually imagines it. It could mean a field, a structure, a presence, or some kind of organized phenomenon that does not fit any normal category. But whatever it was, the clues suggest relationship, not coincidence. The image contained order. The probe reacted. The data changed. And the deeper the anomaly was studied, the harder it became to dismiss the possibility that Voyager had entered the vicinity of something that was not just there, but aware enough to influence the interaction. In that sense, the most terrifying possibility is not that Voyager found something strange. It is that something strange may have noticed Voyager first. One of the most chilling aspects of the pattern is that it did not behave like a distant background object pinned harmlessly to the stars. It appeared in a way that suggested association with Voyager's motion itself, almost like the anomaly remained in step with the probe, rather than fading behind it like a normal visual artifact. That possibility is deeply unsettling because it opens the door to an interpretation far darker than a one-time encounter. If the anomaly was moving with Voyager, then we're no longer talking about a snapshot of something that passed by. We may be talking about an attachment, a trailing structure, or a sustained interaction that continued after the initial moment of contact. Think about how terrifying that is. A spacecraft launched by humanity nearly half a century ago, now farther from Earth than any other machine we have ever built, carrying with it evidence that something in interstellar space did not simply appear and vanish but stayed close enough to remain part of the picture. At that point, the question changes completely. We're no longer asking what Voyager saw. We are asking what followed it out there in the dark. For decades, interstellar space has been imagined as emptiness on a scale so absolute it almost feels abstract. A black ocean with nothing but particles, radiation, and silence stretching endlessly in every direction. But if this encounter is real, if quantum AI truly pulled something meaningful out of that image and connected it to Voyager 1's behavior, then deep space may not be empty in the way we thought. It may be sparse, yes. It may be cold, yes. But empty? Maybe not. And that is what makes this story feel historic. Voyager may first have become more than a probe. It may have become the first witness to something waiting beyond the comfortable assumptions of our solar system. Something structured, something responsive, something that does not fit inside the old picture of interstellar darkness. If that is true, then the legacy of Voyager changes overnight. It is no longer just humanity's farthest traveler. It becomes the machine that may have given us our first real hint that the void is not silent, because nothing is there, but because we have only just begun to notice what has always been hiding inside it. For most of human history, deep space has been imagined as the ultimate symbol of loneliness, a vast black expanse where distance itself becomes a kind of silence, where nothing waits, nothing answers, and nothing ever looks back. But Voyager may first have just forced us to question that entire picture. Because if quantum AI truly detected something structured, something alarming, and something connected to Voyager's latest impossible encounter, then the darkness beyond our solar system may not be empty at all. That is what makes this story so unsettling. On its own, an old image could be dismissed. A signal anomaly could be dismissed. Even an unexplained change in a spacecraft behavior could be explained away as aging hardware drifting into failure. But when those pieces begin to align, when the image contains order, when the signal changes show precision, when the spacecraft appears to react, and when the anomaly seems connected to the very region Voyager crossed, then the event stops looking like coincidence. It starts looking like contact with something we were never prepared to recognize. And maybe that is the most chilling part of all. Not that Voyager 1 found something strange, but that the encounter may have revealed a deeper truth about interstellar space itself. That beyond the heliopause, beyond the last familiar edge of the sun's influence, the universe may not open into emptiness, but into a realm where the rules feel thinner, stranger, and far less human than we ever imagined. A place where a machine can drift for decades in silence and still end up being noticed. So now the question is no longer just what Voyager 1 captured in that image. The real question is this: what was out there with it? And is it still there now? If you enjoyed this video, drop your theory in the comments below. Do you think quantum AI really uncovered something alarming in Voyager 1's image? Or are we only beginning to understand what the probe encountered in deep space? And subscribe, because if Voyager's journey has revealed even a small crack in the silence of the cosmos, then what comes next could change everything. I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts,